Hello, and welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near Death Experience and Other Phenomena. I'm your host, Tamara Caulder Richardson, a 6-time near death experiencer and Christ Chandler. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Tell your friends, watch, and make comments. I'd love to hear your feedback on my episodes. So today we have a very exciting guest I've been waiting for a long time to meet and hear their story, and that would be John Carter. And he had a near-death experience and a profound NDE with Jesus, and so did I. And that's one of my favorite topics. So I love talking about Jesus. So today we have John here. So thank you so much for being on the Seeking Heaven channel.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me. I'm glad that I got an opportunity to spread the good word that Jesus wanted me to spread. So here I am, and I'm ready to roll.
Fantastic. Well, you can start anywhere you want. If you feel like that you want to start with your near-death experience story and then go from there. And then, of course, I'm sure then we'll start talking about Jesus.
Okay. I guess this goes back to the year 2020. It wasn't a very good year for me, as it was for a lot of people. It wasn't a good year. Of course, that's when COVID came out and so forth. But
Right.
in late July, early August, I collapsed in my bedroom,
Oh
of
my
all
God.
places, from sepsis poisoning that I didn't realize I had. And I got dizzy and just collapsed on the floor. And when I woke up, it was 5 days later, and I could barely move. And I was reaching around in the dark for my phone, and through some miracle that Jesus had pre-planned, I found it, and I called the cavalry, and they came and got me, and I was rushed to the hospital, and it was there in the emergency room that I technically had two near-death experiences. One minor, very minor one, where I had died on the gurney that they had brought me into the emergency room. They brought me in on that, and my organs were shutting down, and they I felt like I was on the ceiling, looking down on my body, and I could see the nurses running around and the doctor doing his thing, and the nurse put a needle in my arm, and the other nurse had like a thing that she was squeezing, and she squeezed it into my lungs and was making my chest expand, and the doctor had these paddle things, and he put them on my chest, and I lifted up off the table, and while I'm looking down on myself, I'm thinking to myself, I must be dead. And I was like, no big deal. And
Really?
I just thought, I guess this is meant to be. It was weird. And then all of a sudden, I shot back into my body, and I felt really, really sick again. My
Okay.
soul felt really, really sick. And it was then that all of a sudden, boom, I'm back up on the ceiling again. And that was the first NDE. The second one was much longer. This one, I was sent into now I'm leaving the ceiling, and I'm sent into this spherical domain, I guess you could say. It's like a, a movie theater, but inside a oval circular tunnel. And at the end of the tunnel is a white light, but as I'm traveling through the tunnel, um, it's maybe, I'm guessing, 20 foot by 20 foot, but it's oval shaped, and it's like a for lack of a better term, a movie going on inside this tunnel of all the pleasant things that occurred in my life from the year 2, 3, 4 years old, all the way up until the time that I was 61 years old. And I'm slowly traveling. And as I'm slowly traveling through this sphere, I'm heading towards that light but at the same time, my soul is still very, very sick and thirsting for something, and I couldn't figure out what. So as I'm traveling, I'm seeing a lot of the things that, as I went through my childhood and young adulthood and into my midlife, I'm seeing a lot of this play out on this inner television screen type technicolor um, oval movie that's going on of my life, and they're all pleasant things. Births of my children, falling in love, things of that nature. All the pleasant things. Um, and I couldn't help but think, I have no idea what's going on here, but at the same time, I still felt like I wasn't alive. But I didn't. It didn't matter to me that I wasn't alive. I just kept traveling. I saw the light, and I thought, there's a light. Maybe I'll better head towards it. So I had no choice. I was heading towards it anyway. So as I'm heading towards it, I thought, okay. And as I get up to the age of about 60, 61 years old, this giant, I'm right up to the light. Okay, now my soul is real close to the light. It's very bright, very perplexing to me. And I'm trying to gather in my thoughts. My soul is thinking, what's going to happen next? Well, it's like somebody just pulled a veil aside, like somebody just pushed a big veil aside. And now I'm on what feels like I'm on my back, and I'm looking up into the sky. And the sky is a different color than the sky we have here. It's a sky that
Huh.
is beautifully colored in colors I've never seen before, colors that were foreign to me. I don't know where
What
these
color?
colors came from.
Was it colors we know?
No, no, not colors from this realm.
Okay.
Uh, Not the colors that you see here. And believe me, I'm an amateur artist. I've tried to get on a palette and put different colors together to try and come up with any of those colors, and it's still in my mind, but I uh, I can't find any of those colors. The closest that I've came to finding those colors was looking deep, deep into the. I know it's going to sound strange, but the James Webb telescope that they just put up.
Okay.
Um, Deep, deep within that pictures of early space where they show the different galaxies and so forth. I
Yes.
see little hints of the colors that I saw in heaven, just little hints of those colors.
Like fuchsia, orange, different colors.
Yes, but
Sure.
those colors are foreign to me.
Got it.
They're not from this realm.
Wow.
And
Okay.
I that's the only other place that I could spot colors like that. And what was fascinating to me was somebody had me in their left arm, and I didn't know who it was, and I could smell an earthy smell, like I was laying in the dirt, and it was like um, I don't know if you've ever smelt, when you were a kid, if you were ever playing in a field or something, or playing in the dirt with your friends, or when you were a child, you could smell the dirt. It was the same
Yeah.
type of um, earthy smell like that, but it wasn't earthy. It was different. It was like a it was earthy, but yet it smelled pleasant. If that's for lack of a better term. Um, and this person had me in their left arm, and he lifted me up to where I was sitting on my hind end, and he had a spoon that was shaped like I guess it was as wide as like um, you would see a person use to make food with. It was a big, much larger spoon than what you'd normally see like in silverware, and he dipped it down into this wooden bucket, and I looked to my right, and it was Jesus Christ. And I'm thinking, oh my God, is this what I think it is? I'm thinking, where am I? What am I doing here? First of all. And he dips into and I'm thirsting like crazy. My soul is sick. It's thirsting. And he dips it into this bucket, takes out the water, and he says, in the name of my Father, and he says that, and he pours it down my throat. And I felt utter refreshment like I've never felt before. Like somebody, have you ever drinking a real cold, ice cold Sprite on a real hot
Yeah.
day?
Oh, yeah,
That
it's
that
delicious.
refreshment, I
Yeah.
felt it was like that, but 100 times over. And then he dipped it down in again, and he said, "In the name of the Son," and he poured it down my throat. And then he dipped it in again, and he said, and he poured this time. He poured it over my head, and this is what really hit me. When he poured it over my head, he said, and the Holy Spirit, and it flowed across my face. The water flowed down my hair, flowed in through my whole being. Is the only way to explain it. I felt like my soul had been completely reinvigorated, and that my soul had grown. My heart within my soul, my whole being felt. I felt so much love. My heart felt like it grew 50 times its size, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't have a clue. And Jesus lifted me to my feet, and I looked to my right, and I'm looking right at my eyes meeting his, and he's got brown eyes, by the way, but my eyes are meeting his, and I'm thinking, my, you know, what am I doing here? What am I doing here in heaven? I couldn't. I felt guilty because I was never that religious. I was never. I mean, I wasn't a. I was a sinner. I thought, what? I didn't have a right to be here. And if anything, I felt like I should have been. And and Jesus knew. I think he knew instinctively that I felt guilty because he kept
Okay.
smiling at me. And I looked to my left, and there was this big angel, a huge angel. Not so much the body was huge, but his wings were huge. And they were beautiful and white, and just like a pure driven snow white, like it was pure. That's the only way to explain it. Very pure type white. And the feathers were real white. And he had beautiful blonde hair, and it was real wavy, and his hair waved down in front of his face a little bit, and he was smiling, and he had a breastplate on, and he had anklets like armor anklets, and the breastplate was shining gold. I mean, it was just gorgeous, and he had a sword on his left hip, and sheathed, and I thought, who is that? I didn't know. And I asked Jesus, I said, who's that? And he said, that John, that's Michael, my archangel. He brought you here. And I'm like,
Oh, he
okay.
brought you to safe passage. That's Michael's supposed to do that. So you're safe passage, nothing harms you.
And I was like, oh my
Wow.
God. I,
Wow.
and I looked at the angel, and he smiled at me when Jesus said that. And I smiled back at him. And I told Jesus, I'm still feeling guilty. I said, Jesus, I don't think I belong here. I said, you sure you got the right guy? I said, I didn't meet St. Peter or anybody, going through the gates. It's like I was supposed to, thinking in my head, none of this happened, and he said, John, he said, relax. He said, the last shall be first and the first shall be last. He said, in my Father's house are many mansions. And he said, I'm going to make a place for you, for your entire family, and for all your friends and their families. And I thought, oh man, I'm really here. This is heaven.
Yeah.
And I'm looking, and there's this big rolling fields, huge rolling fields. And I can see off into the distance a little bit, and I can see what I think is a shining city, but I really wasn't sure if that was it or not. But I could definitely see these rolling hills, and they're gorgeous with flowers and rolling plants that were just, again, colors I've never seen before,
Mhm.
and flowers I've never seen before, and things that I've never you can't find them here in this realm, in this, and I thought, man, is this real? Uh, and so
So
I'm
were
a
you
full,
in a pasture, or what did it look like where you were standing? I know you're looking out, but where did your immediate surroundings, what did that look like?
well, Jesus, I don't know, if figuratively speaking, Jesus was about maybe 4 or 5 feet from me to my right. And what we figure is feet here on this realm. And he was the same height as me and everything. He was wearing clothing that was very, um, I guess, mundane is the way to put it. I mean, lack of a better term, he looked like the same Jesus that you would see in maybe a film or something. He looked, his clothing wasn't gold or wearing white or anything of that nature. He was just wearing very a common tunic from that, from Jerusalem type,
Mhm.
that era, 2000 plus years ago. And he he had the dark brown hair. And when I looked into his eyes, Tamara, I saw something that I've never seen before and probably will never see again until I go back. And that is, I saw within his soul, if that makes any sense. I saw inside of him so much love and so much kindness and so much humility and so much love. But I want to emphasize love
Mhm.
and so much beauty within himself that I thought, man, I thought this truly is the Son of God. That this is unbelievable. And I thought, again, I feeling guilty. I thought, man, I don't think I should be in this guy's presence. I'm a sinner. And I had no clue what he meant when he said, the first shall be last and the last shall be first. I didn't find that out until I got back. I looked it up in the Bible, but I didn't know, I didn't read the Bible that
So
much. I wasn't
so tell the viewers what that meant to you, what you found out.
well, what I found out is that those of us who think that we're not worthy are more than worthy. And those of us that may not be worthy, or those of us that profess to be um, holier than thou, so to speak, may not exactly be worthy in his eyes, but and Jesus uses and God uses since then. I feel in my spirit, because I've become a bit of an apostle now, but I feel in my spirit that Jesus now takes those that were sinners and he develops them and turns them into fishers of men,
Ooh, yeah. I love that.
where
Yeah,
he
it does.
he and he teaches us as apostles to use our gifts as an example to others, not so much teach or preach, but be an example to others. What we do day in and day out in our day-to-day lives, that has a lot of bearing as apostles as to what he's looking for in this particular life and in this realm. And since I've been back, I'm I use these gifts humbly. I want to point that out, but I've
Yeah.
found that I'm able to speak in different languages now that I wasn't able to speak in before. Um, I'm learning different languages. I'm currently learning Russian, and I'm learning the Filipino language, which is Tagalog.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm learning, and it's coming to me pretty easy. Whereas before, I had trouble with Spanish one, in high school.
Yeah.
And I find it amazing now that I can do this. And also, Jesus, I want to point this out. He bestowed upon me a gift of helping others to leave darkness and come unto Him. Teach
Mhm.
others how to come unto Him and feel His light, because He is the light of the world.
Very much.
people don't realize that. When you go into a room and it's pitch black dark and you strike a match, what happens to the darkness? Well, it flees into every corner of the room. And
Yeah.
that's the light of Christ. And
Yes.
that darkness is Satan and all his demonic forces, that,
Unfortunately, that's real too.
and it's very real. And I
Mhm.
found out since I've been back that those demonic forces are very real and
Mhm.
that Satan controls the world currently. And that's why the world is such a mess that we
Terrible.
that we're in.
Yes.
And but as I'm in heaven, carry on with my I see literally thousands upon thousands of people, and they're in this field, and the field is gorgeous, and the smell up there is unbelievable.
What's it smell like?
Uh, well, I want to say probably the if you took whatever your favorite perfume was, Tamara, and that smell that you really enjoy, and turned up the volume on it 500 times. That's how wonderful the smell is up there.
What did
That's
Jesus
why
smell like?
I didn't want to leave.
Did Jesus have a smell? Did he smell good?
Yes, he did. Everything smelled good up there. Uh, I mean, no matter where I went, I mean, Jesus smelled kind of. I don't think he really had a smell as much as his tunic was very, like I say, it was very much the same way you would see a tunic in Jerusalem. Back in his day. I mean, it was very simple. He had a rope around his waist that had his tunic tied, and he had simple sandals on. He looked
Right.
very contrite, I guess you could say. He was very fine with that, and frankly, I was kind of astonished. I kept thinking, Jesus in heaven. I figured he's going to have a gold crown on his head and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, he didn't have any of that stuff, at least with me anyway. Other people maybe he does, but with me he didn't. He, I'll tell you this much though, he had more love, compassion, kindness, humility, and 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 compassion for his fellow man than anything or anyone I have ever met in this realm or the next.
You're
I
right.
mean, I just completely taken aback by what I saw in his eyes. I can't get off of that, my eyes meeting his. And I thought to myself, am I even worthy to be looking into this man's eyes? You know? And, but anyway, to make a long story short, there's this big crowd, and I have no clue who they are. And Jesus um, walks me towards them, and all of a sudden I'm approached by two monks. One of them is St. Francis of Assisi. I recognized him
Okay.
because he was kind of thin. He had a Franciscan's robe on, and he had the haircut like a Franciscan.
Okay.
And
Like a bowl cut, bald, but
yes,
bowl cut.
yes. And he gave me a hug. And the other monk, I didn't recognize. I didn't have a clue who he was. And
What do he
they
look
were
like?
he was heavy set, a little
Okay.
heavy set, kind of portly. Had a beard like mine, and very nice man. Both of them gave me hugs. St. Francis first, and then this other person. They both had the stigmata, which is in their hands, as Jesus did, in the hands and in the feet. And in the hands, it was a piercing light. Like if I held my hand up and there was a hole there, it was
It's a
like a, you
beautiful
couldn't
light.
even hardly look into it. It was so piercing, the light, when I was in heaven. I mean, it was like, it was like unbelievable where the wounds were, in his hands and in his feet. That light shining was just glorious. And he had a wound in his side, and Jesus did too, of course. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know who this other monk is. And he gives me a hug, and he says in Italian, um, welcome, my brother in Christ. And I didn't know what he meant until I got back and took that. Italian, what he said in Italian, and translated it from Italian to English. And then I realized what he said. But I knew it was Italian, that much. And then I started researching who the guy was, because, you know, you don't lose that memory
Yeah.
in your head when you have one of these things. And I remember his face really well. And so I looked him up, and it was St. Padre Pio.
Oh, yeah. He's
And
definitely he's a saint.
yeah, and I didn't know who he was. And he was with St. Francis, of all people. And I I don't know why I ran into those. I can only assume that St. Francis was my confirmation saint when I was a Catholic, young Catholic kid. And so I'm assuming that's the reason he was there. But, you know, Jesus walks me up after I get done meeting these two. Jesus walks me up to this crowd, and I see my entire family, all my family that had passed on, all my brothers, or not brothers, excuse me, but brothers in Christ, sisters in Christ that had passed on. Also, my aunts, uncles, my mom, my dad, my 9-year-old niece, that she had died from a diabetic coma. She was there. She was in my mom's right arm. And I'm hugging all of these people, and they're, you know, my dad's like, you know, how you doing, son? And he gives me a big hug. And my mom's like, oh, Johnny, and she gives me a big hug. And my aunts and uncles are all, you know, joking with me and talking to me and saying how wonderful it is to see me. And I'm thinking to myself, man, you know, I look back at Jesus, and he's just smiling. You know, he's just smiling at me. And
Wow,
I
you
thought,
really went far. Most don't go that far that you got to see all your family. Did they look younger?
they looked about the same age as you would expect to see them. And I don't know if that's meant to be or not, but
So
their
they look good.
souls,
They
their
didn't look old
souls.
and decrepit. They look
No,
vibrant.
no, no. They looked like my dad. He may have looked like he did when he was in his late 50s, early 60s. My mom, maybe mid 50s, late 40s. Um, my my aunts and uncles the same way. Kind of the same way they looked when I was growing up.
Okay.
That's the way they looked. And I don't know if that was meant to be like that. You know, only God knows that. I don't know why, but I think as I moved back into the crowd, it was generational. I would move into the next step of the crowd, and then it was family from the 1900s, you know, not just the 20th century, but like I see my grandfather, but then I met my great grandfather,
That's
and then my
fascinating.
great great grandfather, and they're
Wow.
wearing strange clothing, so I know it's not from the 20th century.
Right.
It's odd looking clothing, but still somewhat like a suit, but it's much different.
Right.
And my great grandmother had one of those big dresses on with the poofy. Uh,
A bustle?
thank you. I guess that's what it's
I
called.
think
Yeah. But she had that on, and as I further I went back, um, the clothing got even weirder yet. I
huh.
mean, I'm moving into the 1600s, the 1500s, the 1400s, and the clothes are really getting odd looking. I mean, they're some of these European folks that I don't even I have a clue. They're a relation of mine somehow.
Mhm.
That I felt that in my spirit, but I didn't have a clue who they were. They're speaking in different languages, what seemed like Hungarian or Czechoslovakian or something. And you know, I'm running into them, and I should point out throughout this entire NDE, I know it wasn't an illusion, because an illusion is like a dream, but with an NDE that's an accurate NDE, I've been taught that you have all five of your senses. You
Right.
have hearing, smelling, you know, taste, everything. It's all there. And it was for me. Everything was there. It was like I was living it out, you know, but in a different realm.
So maybe tell people this is a good point. You could tell people I try to describe. I don't know how it happens, but it's like you can breathe, you have a body, but It feels like here, but you're not, and I don't know how God does that.
I don't know either. And that's another thing I want to point out is that, those of us that, believe in religion, so to speak, I want to point out something to everyone. And that is, I had aunts and uncles and cousins and people that were up there from every religious denomination you could think of as far as Christianity is concerned. And they were all there. They were all there. I mean, I'm talking Catholic, Protestant, of every type, Anglican, Lutherans, Methodists, Presbyterians. Um, they're all there. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, um, and I didn't think this until I got back, to be honest with you, but I was thinking, you know, we place too much emphasis on mankind here in this realm, places way too much emphasis on, oh, well, if you don't believe in my way, then you're not going to go to heaven.
Right.
Guess what? There are people up there from every Christian denomination that I could think of. Now, did I meet people that were Muslim or anything like that up there? They may have been up there from my, but can't say I met anybody that I knew, you
Okay.
know, but I did run into a lot of people that were oddly dressed. That's for sure.
Did they know you?
Yeah, oddly enough, they did. They
Okay.
they gave me hugs and they were talking to me, but I didn't have a clue what they were saying.
That is so cute. So, I don't know how that's possible, but in heaven, I think they know us and they watch us and they know that we're family somehow, even though we
That's
don't know
true.
them, right?
That's true. There even was a guy, Tamara, that had a bucket helmet on, and he had a big sword, and he had like armor on, and he had a breastplate and like chainmail, and he had a white tunic on with a red cross. I remember, and
Rosicrucian.
and I asked when I got back. I was talking to my older sister because she follows NDEs too, and I asked her. I said, "Who do you think that guy was?" And she said, "Well, in my opinion, he's probably a crusader.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
Rosicrucian.
yeah, that maybe went to Jerusalem or something of that nature." But I didn't know that. I was taken. I was aghast at all of this. I mean,
So this was a family member? So you had someone in your family that possibly protected the bloodline of Christ?
yes, yes. Apparently, somewhere down the way, some family member of mine was sent to, in the Crusades, I'm guessing. And again, that's a guess because I didn't know who this person was. And he didn't speak to me. I mean, he was further on, maybe like, I don't know, I want to say 900, 1100, maybe 9, 10, the 10th century,
Oh,
11th century, right in that neighborhood. Um, I can't say for sure. I'm no, you know, um, I can't think of the historical significance of when those years were, but I do know that um, there were crusades and so forth. I mean,
yeah.
we all realize the history beyond that. But I was shocked though that I even ran into a guy that was pushing a cart full of sausages, which is really weird.
Huh.
Um, and the sausages smelled so good, and I'm thinking to myself, while I'm there, I thought, man, those smell so good. And he wanted to give me one, and they were wrapped in this like spider web casing. The sausages were,
Oh, like
and
a Muslim?
I thought, no, he had real tight tights on, like I don't know, like you would see in maybe 15th century Italy, with these weird looking. Do you know how Robin Hood had those weird felt
Tights.
feet, those little booties?
Oh, the booties, yeah.
Yeah, the little green, or they weren't green, but they were odd looking. They weren't from this era, that's for sure.
Right.
Uh,
Sounds like something from the Renaissance Festival.
right, right. And I'm thinking, and he had one of those strange looking hats that you'd like see Picasso wearing or something,
Got
or
it.
not Picasso, but Rembrandt or somebody like that.
That time
One of those
period.
strange Italian weird looking hats. And then of course there was also
Like
there
a
were people,
fortune cookie.
right, and then there were guys up there with those with the gosh, like strange bloomers,
Blue. Okay.
Well, but they had tights,
Blues. Yeah,
and then they had
pantaloons.
armor on their head, and the armor looked like the Spanish conquistador armor on
Right.
their head.
Like
And
like a crest.
right, but they look like those guys that guard the Pope. What do they call those? Um, I think they're called the Swiss Guard or something.
Okay.
But they're dressed like that, and I thought, okay, you know. But there were a lot of people up there, and I didn't have a clue who. Like I say, 90% of them, I didn't know who they were
But they
because
were
I'm
related to you.
going back into the generations. I mean, even my great grandfather had to introduce himself to me because I didn't know who he was, and he spoke very good English.
Wow. So that
And,
that makes sense. Why wouldn't they? I mean, if heaven is eternal, why wouldn't our loved ones be there?
well, he said, hello, John. He said, it's nice to meet you. He said, you don't know who I am, do you? And I said, no. And he said, I'm your great grandfather, Andrew. And I thought, oh my God. And my middle name is Andrew. So I'm thinking,
Oh
wow,
my gosh, that's sweet. This is so touching, don't you think? That
Oh,
they
I was like,
came for you because they loved you and they've been
oh yeah. He
following
gave
you.
me the biggest hug, and I said, wow. And he had this medal on his like lapel type. That was like a medal around his. I don't know if it was around his neck or on his lapel, but
The
trying to remember that.
military.
But
The
it was real
military.
shiny, and I asked him I said, that's kind of cool. What is that? And he said, that's from the Civil War. He said that's signifies that we were victorious, and I was like, okay. Civil War, as in, I'm thinking this must be the war between the states.
Right. Wow.
And he did fight in the. Now I find out that he fought with the Union Army, and
It
that
was the Union.
his
Mhm.
name is emblazoned down there at Vicksburg, Mississippi, where he fought. There's a big tomb there where they have the names of the Union soldiers that fought at the Battle of Vicksburg, and the state of Illinois put it down there, and his name is in there. My older sister found it, and
Wow.
I was shocked when she didn't find this out until well after I had gotten back.
Wow. Well, so sounds like that you're describing regular people who had regular jobs.
Right.
Then you also had holy people,
Oh, absolutely.
and then you had warriors that
Right.
I think our loved ones, I mean, this has taken a while to put all this together for myself, but I think the loved ones we think we're the original, but I think our loved ones in spirit, their ancestors, that they know that we're part of their offspring. And what we don't know is that we have a lot of traits that they had.
Right.
And even though maybe you hadn't led your life as, like you said, an apostle, but they knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. Now I'm finding that out. It's odd that you say that. I'm finding that out that everything is pre-planned and preordained. I'm finding that out. I didn't realize that before. Everything is meant to be as it should be.
Please subscribe, like, and make comments, and support this channel by becoming a member. Thank you for your continued support.